Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with a difficult truth. Human beings are deeply conflicted creatures. We don't always say what we mean, and we rarely do what we feel. And nowhere is this more evident than in the complex, often torturous dance of romance. You see, a man, a rational, structured, goal-oriented creature, might find himself in the gravitational pull of a woman, yet resist with every fiber of his being. And why? Because emotions, particularly those of the romantic kind, introduce uncertainty, and uncertainty threatens order. So what do men do? They mask, they withdraw, they rationalize, they fight their feelings. But if you're observant, if you understand the patterns of behavior that reveal inner conflict, you will see the signs. A man who is struggling with his emotions will rarely act in a straightforward manner. Instead, his behavior will be erratic, oscillating between deep engagement and sudden withdrawal. One moment he is completely present, his eyes fixed on you, his attention undivided, his words filled with warmth and enthusiasm. But just as suddenly he pulls away, he becomes distant, detached, even cold. It's as if he is battling something within himself, and in truth he is. This fluctuation is not random, it is the manifestation of inner conflict. On one hand, he is drawn to you in ways he may not fully understand, or, more likely, in ways he refuses to acknowledge. On the other, he feels the need to resist. The reasons for this resistance vary. Perhaps he fears rejection. Perhaps he is unprepared for the vulnerability that love demands. Perhaps he believes that acting on his emotions would disrupt the carefully structured life he has built. Whatever the reason, the result is the same, an unpredictable push and pull dynamic that leaves both parties confused. This internal struggle often plays out in patterns. When he feels safe, when he allows himself to enjoy your presence without overthinking, his true feelings come to the surface. He listens intently, he laughs easily, and his body language is open and inviting. But then, almost as if he has caught himself in the act of emotional exposure, he recoils. He might become more reserved, offer fewer words, or even create physical distance. It's a self-imposed retreat, an attempt to reestablish emotional control. Such behavior is not always conscious. Many men are not fully aware of why they act this way. They only know that something about you stirs emotions they don't feel ready to face. If you look closely, you might even notice a fleeting moment of frustration or self-restraint when he pulls back. This is a man wrestling with two opposing forces, his genuine attraction to you and his need for self-preservation. Recognizing this pattern is crucial. It allows you to understand that his behavior is not a reflection of your worth or desirability, but rather a mirror of his internal struggle. The question then becomes whether he will overcome this battle within himself, or if he will continue to fight against the very thing he wants the most. When a man is grappling with his emotions, he often turns to humor as a means of self-preservation. Instead of openly expressing his feelings, he hides them behind teasing, sarcasm, and playful jabs. On the surface, it might seem like he's simply joking around, but beneath this lighthearted exterior lies something deeper, an internal conflict between his desire to connect and his fear of vulnerability. Humor serves as a defense mechanism, allowing him to engage with you while keeping his emotions at arm's length. It gives him a way to interact without fully exposing what he feels inside. He might tease you about something trivial, your habits, your taste in music, even your expressions, but there is an underlying warmth to it. His jokes, though sometimes mischievous, are rarely meant to be cruel. Instead, they act as a controlled way of showing attention without crossing into overt emotional territory. This kind of teasing often carries an almost paradoxical energy. It is both an attempt to get closer to you and a method of keeping his feelings in check. He wants to see how you react, how you engage with him, and whether you play along. In some cases, he might even tease you about other men, trying to gauge your interest without having to directly ask. This allows him to gather information while maintaining the illusion that he is unaffected. At times, however, this playful demeanor can turn into mild frustration, particularly if his emotions become overwhelming. He might make a sarcastic comment about your effect on him or mock his own actions in a way that hints at deeper feelings. He may say things like, "I don't know why I put up with you," or "you're trouble," with a smirk, as if acknowledging that he is drawn to you against his better judgment. These remarks are not accidental. They are carefully chosen words that allow him to hint at his feelings without making himself too vulnerable. Understanding this behavior is important because it reveals an internal battle that he may not even fully recognize. If a man consistently teases but never allows the conversation to turn serious, it's not because he lacks feelings, it's because he is trying to keep them in check. The question then is whether he will allow himself to break through that emotional barrier, or if he will remain trapped behind the safety of his own defenses. When a man is fighting his feelings for you, his protective instincts often betray him. Even if he refuses to acknowledge his emotions outright, his actions will speak louder than his words. He might insist that he doesn't have romantic feelings, that you're just friends, or that he's not interested in a relationship. Yet the moment you are in distress, his entire demeanor shifts. There is no hesitation. He steps in ready to defend, assist, or shield you from whatever is causing you discomfort. This protectiveness manifests in many ways, some subtle and others overt. It might be something as small as guiding you through a crowded room with a hand on your back, ensuring you get home safely, or offering unsolicited advice when he feels you're in a difficult situation. Other times it's more pronounced, stepping between you and someone who makes you uncomfortable, getting visibly frustrated when another man takes an interest in you, or even challenging someone who speaks to you disrespectfully. These actions are often instinctive, revealing feelings he may not even be ready to admit to himself. One of the clearest signs of this hidden emotional investment is his heightened sensitivity to your well-being. If you're feeling down, he notices. If you're struggling, he offers help before you even ask. If someone upsets you, he reacts with a level of protectiveness that seems disproportionate, especially for someone who claims not to care. The truth is, his words may deny his emotions, but his instincts betray them. This behavior is rooted in something deep within the male psyche, the drive to protect those he values. Whether shaped by biology, social conditioning, or personal experiences, men often express love through action rather than words. When a man fights his feelings, he may not verbally express affection, but his protectiveness exposes what he refuses to say. At times, this conflict can create confusion. He may become frustrated with himself for caring so much, withdrawing afterward to regain control over his emotions. He may downplay his actions, brushing them off as simple concern or duty. But one thing remains consistent. He will always be there when it matters. If you recognize this pattern, it's important to understand that his protectiveness is not random. It is a subconscious declaration of his feelings, even if he continues to fight them consciously. Whether he eventually embraces them depends on whether he can reconcile his emotions with his own sense of control. When a man is fighting his feelings for you, he often finds himself seeking your presence without consciously acknowledging why. He will create reasons, practical, logical, seemingly coincidental, to be around you, but in reality, these excuses are just a way to satisfy an emotional need he isn't ready to face. Rather than admitting he enjoys your company and wants to be near you, he frames his presence as happenstance or necessity. You might notice him showing up at places you frequent, claiming he was just in the area. He might offer to help with something small, carrying something heavy, fixing something for you, assisting with a work task, presenting his actions as purely functional rather than emotional. If you pay close attention, you'll see that these excuses don't always make complete sense. There are moments when he didn't need to be there, yet he found a way to be. His rational mind constructs justifications, but his subconscious motives are far more revealing. This behavior extends beyond physical presence. He might be one of the first to respond to your messages, engage in seemingly pointless conversations, or send you articles, songs, or memes that he thinks you'd like. Each interaction, though small on its own, forms a pattern. He continuously finds ways to stay connected to you without making his intentions obvious. It's as if he is giving himself permission to be around you as long as he has a valid, non-romantic reason. What makes this particularly telling is that he likely doesn't behave this way with everyone. He may claim he's just being helpful or that it's no big deal, yet the frequency and consistency of his presence suggest otherwise. If he were truly indifferent, he wouldn't go out of his way time and time again. At some level, he is aware of what he's doing, even if he won't admit it. When confronted, he might laugh it off or act as though it's a coincidence. He may even get defensive, insisting that he's only being friendly. But the truth is, his behavior is guided by an internal battle, one where his heart wants to be near you, while his mind is trying to maintain control. Whether he eventually acknowledges this or continues to hide behind his justifications depends on whether he is willing to face his own emotions. When a man is struggling with his feelings for you, he will often avoid conversations that force him to confront them. He may be open about many things, his career, his ambitions, his opinions on life, but the moment the conversation turns toward emotions, vulnerability, or the nature of your relationship, he retreats. This is not accidental. It is a form of self-preservation, a way of maintaining control over emotions he is not yet ready to process. You might notice that he can talk for hours about abstract concepts, his passions, or even personal struggles. Yet when the topic shifts to how he feels about you or relationships in general, he becomes vague, deflects with humor, or redirects the conversation. He might change the subject, brush it off as unimportant, or even become uncomfortable and distant. This isn't because he lacks emotions. It's because acknowledging them means making them real, and that is something he is not prepared to do. At times, this avoidance may be subtle. He may downplay romantic topics, dismiss feelings as complicated, or insist that he doesn't think about such things. Other times, it is more obvious. He may shut down, refuse to engage, or become noticeably frustrated when emotions are brought up. It is in these moments that his internal conflict is most visible. A man who feels nothing has no need to avoid the topic. A man who feels something but is trying to suppress it, however, will do everything in his power to steer clear of it. This behavior often creates confusion because he may still show signs of deep interest and emotional investment in other ways. He listens intently when you talk about your feelings, supports you when you are struggling, and acts in ways that suggest a strong emotional connection. Yet, when it comes to defining his own emotions, he remains guarded. This contradiction is a clear sign of someone caught between what they feel and what they are willing to admit. Understanding this pattern can help clarify the situation. His avoidance is not about indifference, it is about control. Whether it is fear of rejection, fear of change, or fear of vulnerability, his refusal to engage in emotional conversations reveals the depth of his struggle. The question is not whether he has feelings, but whether he will ever allow himself to embrace them. Until he does, he will continue to dance around the truth rather than face it head on. When a man is fighting his feelings for you, the people around him often notice before he is willing to admit it himself. His friends, whether intentionally or not, become unspoken witnesses to his internal battle. They see the way he looks at you, the way he acts differently in your presence, and the way he talks about you when you're not around. Even if he refuses to acknowledge his emotions, his social circle picks up on the truth. One of the biggest giveaways is how his friends react when your name comes up. They might tease him, exchange knowing glances, or make offhand comments suggesting they see something he won't admit. If you hear jokes about how he likes you, or if his friends smirk when you're mentioned, it's a strong sign that they've picked up on his feelings. Men are rarely teased by their friends about someone they have no interest in. Their reactions indicate that, on some level, he has made his feelings obvious, just not in a way he can admit to himself. Another clue lies in how his friends treat you. If they are unusually friendly, if they make an effort to include you, or if they act as though they already see you as part of his life, it's likely because they know something you don't. Sometimes they may even drop subtle hints, either to you or to him, as if trying to push him in the right direction. In some cases, his friends might grow frustrated with him, urging him to just admit it, or stop overthinking. These reactions suggest that his feelings are not just imagined. They are noticeable enough for the people closest to him to see. Interestingly, if he is truly in denial about his emotions, he may react defensively when his friends tease him. He might brush it off, roll his eyes, or insist that it's not like that. But the very fact that he feels the need to deny it so strongly is telling. If he truly felt nothing, he wouldn't need to protest so much. His reaction is often more revealing than the teasing itself. At the end of the day, his friends provide a window into the truth he is trying to suppress. They see what he won't say, and they often reflect back the reality he is avoiding. The question is whether he will eventually listen to them or continue to resist what is already obvious to everyone else.